Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. Today we are going to discuss rest of the diuretics. So first of all there are thiazide diuretics. These diuretics are sulfonamide derivatives and you well aware that sulfonamide derivatives may produce allergies. So their one of the side effects may be allergies because these are sulfonamide derivatives. Now first of all we will discuss their mechanism of action. First of all, they are secreted by the proximal tubules. The point to remember is that they are secreted by the proximal tubules, but they act on distal convoluted tubule. Secretion is where? Secretion is from the proximal tubules, but their action is on distal convoluted tubules. What they do, what they does on the distal convoluted tubules? Number one, they inhibit the sodium chloride symporter. Sodium chloride symporter is present in distal convoluted tubule. So as a result of this inhibition, they will increase the sodium and chloride excretion. And you know when sodium and chloride is lost, the water also goes with sodium and chloride. Some thiazides also have weak carbonic anhydrase effect. Now I am going to show the picture which will describe the mechanism of action of thiazide diuretics. You can see this is distal convoluted tubule. This is distal convoluted tubule. You can see this is the symporter NCC, that is sodium chloride co-symporter. This is sodium chloride symporter. Normally I am going to tell you normally what happens. This symporter from the lumen of the urine transports sodium and chloride into the cell of distal convoluted tubule, and from here this sodium is transported into the blood, and as a result of this sodium, potassium is excreted secreted in the cell, and from here it is lost in the urine. So normally this is happening in the distal convoluted tubule. Moreover, because of this symporter, there is positive potential inside the cell. This positive potential causes calcium to come inside the cell from the lumen of the urine. That is the calcium that is present in your urine. This positive potential attracts the calcium from this lumen of the urine inside the cell and then into the blood. So I have told you that thiazide diuretics block this important. So there will be no transport of sodium from the lumen of the urine into the cell and from the cell into the blood. So this sodium and chloride along with water will be lost in the urine or will be excreted in the urine. As a result of this, these thiazide diuretics act as diuretics because they cause loss of sodium and chloride along with water into the urine. So what are the effects on the electrolytes? They will increase the sodium and chloride excretion. Number two, they can produce hypokalemic metabolic alkalosis. I have shown in the picture that sodium that comes from the lumen of the urine into the cell is used for exchange with potassium. The sodium that comes from the lumen of the urine into the cell, that is exchanged for the potassium. So sodium will be conserved and the potassium will be excreted. So they can produce this hypokalemic metabolic alkalosis because of potassium excretion, and it also increases the associated with increased sodium in the distal tubules. Number two, these thiazide diuretics inhibit the uric acid secretion. So they can produce hyperuricemia, and it is very dangerous for the patients of gout. So you should be careful for when you are going to prescribe thiazide diuretics. Don't prescribe them to the patients of gout because these produce hyperuricemia. Thiazide diuretics decreases the calcium excretion. I have told you that due to the sodium chloride importer, there is a positive potential. This positive potential, a positive gradient, attracts the calcium from the lumen of the urine into the cell, and then this calcium goes into the blood. But when you are using this thiazide diuretics, they are going to inhibit the sodium chloride importer, so there will be no positive potential that are going to attract the calcium, so calcium will be lost in the urine. They tends to increase the plasma calcium, so they are going to retard the osteoporotic process. So as well as the divalent magnesium excretion is also increased, because thiazide diuretics produces positive potential that are going to lose these divalent cations, so there will be decreased calcium excretion and increases magnesium excretion. Now comes the adverse effects. They produce, because they cause loss of potassium, so they can produce hypokalemia, and this hypokalemia increases the risk of digitalis toxicity. They also produced hyponatremia, because sodium is going to lose. They cause excretion of magnesium, so they can produce hypomagnesemia. Moreover, there is hyperuricemia, so you should be cautious in prescribing to patients of gout. They have bad effects on lipids as well as your blood glucose effect. They produce hyperglycemia as well as hypercholesterolemia, so they are the not favorable drugs for the patients of diabetes mellitus as well as patients of dyslipidemia. Although they are not contraindicated, but kept in mind, they produce hyperglycemia and hypercholesterolemia. You may be asked in your viva or in MCQs what kind of, what type of diuretic have bad effects on your glucose metabolism as well as your lipid metabolism. They can produce hypercalcemia because they produce more calcium is preserved when you are using thiazide diuretics, so they are good for elderly. They prevent osteoporotic changes, but in certain conditions this hypercalcemia can produce calcium stones, so in that effect it will not be beneficial. As regards the interactions of thiazide diuretics, when you combine with digitalis, because thiazide diuretics produce hypokalemia and hypokalemia increases the digitalis toxicity, so there will be increased risk of arrhythmias. Similar is the case with quinidine and other antiarrhythmics. These drugs reduces the efficacy of anticoagulants and uricosuric drugs. They also reduces the efficacy of oral antidiabetics because they produced hyperglycemia. If you are using thiazide diuretics with NSAIDs, they will reduce the efficacy of thiazides. Why? Because inhibition of renal prostaglandin reduces the efficacy of thiazides. Normally, your prostaglandins are needed to maintain the glomerular filtration. When you use NSAIDs, prostaglandin will not be there, so prostaglandin synthesis reduces this inhibition of prostaglandin synthesis reduces the efficacy of thiazides. Next comes the loop diuretics. They are also called high ceiling diuretics. Their site of action is thick ascending limb of loop of Henle. How they produce diuretic effect? Loop diuretic should be excreted into the lumen. First point to remember is that they should be excreted into the lumen. In the lumen, they act on sodium potassium 2 chloride importer. This importer normally causes sodium, potassium and chloride to go into the blood. When this importer is inhibited, this sodium, potassium and chloride along with water will be excreted in the urine. Moreover, because of these diuretics and because of this inhibition of this importer, osmotic gradient for water reabsorption is also decreased. As a result, there will be more water excretion. Calcium and magnesium are also excreted as well. So this is the opposite. Calcium effect is opposite to that of thiazide diuretic. Thiazide diuretic causes hypercalcemia. They preserve calcium, while loop diuretics causes loss of calcium. How they causes? Now we will see. You can see here loop diuretics act on thin ascending loop of Henle. They block the sodium, potassium and two chlorides importer. As a result, these all three along with water will be lost in the urine. Moreover, because of this importer, there was a positive potential. This positive potential causes the magnesium and calcium to come into the blood. Now, because of inhibition of this importer, there will be no positive potential, and along with these, magnesium and calcium will also be excreted. It means that loop diuretic causes hypomagnesemia as well as hypocalcemia. So they can be used in condition where hypercalcemia is present to cause loss of this calcium. Interactions, they should not be used along with aminoglycosides and cisplatin because of nephrotoxicity and ototoxicities. Prostaglandins are important in maintaining glomerular filtration. I have already told you in thiazide diuretics, NSAIDs reduce the diuretic effect of many diuretics because prostaglandins are necessary for maintaining glomerular filtration. When you use NSAIDs, these prostaglandins are inhibited, so there will be reduction in the glomerular filtration, so the effect of diuretics will be reduced. Similarly, there is a drug probenecid. This reduces the effects of diuretics by inhibiting the secretion. You know that secretion diuretics are first secreted into the lumen and then they will act. When you use probenecid, they inhibit the secretion, so diuretics will not be secreted into the lumen and they will not act. Indications, these loop diuretics are first line drugs in congestive heart failure. You know that in congestive heart failure, the heart is not capable of pumping and it is not working properly and it is preserving the fluid in your body and there is edema. To lose this fluid, we use loop diuretics to get rid of this extra fluid. Most over they are used in acute pulmonary edema because these loop diuretics reduces the pulmonary vascular pressure. Exact mechanism is not known, but they reduces the pulmonary vascular pressure. Moreover, they causes the reduction in the overall body fluid, so they are used in acute pulmonary edema. They are also used in edema due to renal failure, nephrotic syndrome and ascites. I have already told you they cause loss of magnesium and calcium, so can be used in hypercalcemia that may be due to malignancy. They are used in severe hypertension because they cause loss of sodium chloride as well as water. Forced diuresis, in some condition we use forced diuretic. For example, there is intoxication by the drugs. So we can use these drugs to cause forced diuresis and to get rid of this intoxication by certain. Adverse effects, they can cause hypovolemic metabolic alkalosis. You know that they are reducing the body volume, they are losing sodium chloride and water, so they can produce hypovolemic metabolic alkalosis. They can produce ototoxicity, so we are not going to use with these drugs that also produce ototoxicity like aminoglycosides, cisplatin. They are sulfonamide derivatives, so they can produce typical sulfonamide allergy. Next comes the potassium sparing diuretics. as the name is indicating that they spares potassium. First of all, there are of two types: sodium channel inhibitors and number two, aldosterone receptor antagonist. Sodium channel inhibitors are amiloride and triamterene, while aldosterone receptor antagonists are spironolactone and eplerenone, and they are steroid derivatives. Normally, what does the aldosterone? Normally, aldosterone in your kidney induces the expression of sodium potassium ATPase and sodium channel. Spironolactone and eplerenone blocks this aldosterone receptor, so there will be reduction of sodium reabsorption and potassium secretion. Now I am going to show the picture. So potassium sparing diuretics, where they are acting, they are going to act in collecting tubule. Now you see here, this is sodium potassium ATPase. Normally aldosterone causes expression of this sodium potassium ATPase as well as this epithelial sodium channel. Now aldosterone receptor antagonist will not cause this sodium potassium ATPase expression as well as inhibit this epithelial sodium channel. So there will be no sodium reabsorption in the blood. There will be no sodium entry from the lumen of the urine into the cell and into the blood. So sodium will lose in the urine. Now you can see here, this sodium channel causes sodium reabsorption and potassium excretion in the urine. When this is blocked, sodium will be lost in the urine and potassium will be preserved in the blood. As a result, we call them as potassium sparing diuretics because they cause loss of sodium and preservation of potassium into the blood. That is why they are called potassium sparing diuretics. Now you can well understand why we call them potassium sparing diuretics. Potassium sparing diuretics usually have a weak diuretic effect. So we can combine with other diuretics to increase their effect. Number two, you know well all other diuretic causes loss of potassium and they causes hypokalemia. But when we use these potassium sparing diuretics, by using this we can potentiate their effect as well as we can prevent this hypokalemia. Similarly, spironolactone is metabolized to its active metabolite canrenone. Long-term use of spironolactone can prevent myocardial hypertrophy and myocardial fibrosis. This is very important effect of potassium sparing diuretics. These are the drugs that can prevent cardiac remodeling. There are many other drugs that prevent cardiac remodeling, but one such diuretic is potassium sparing diuretics, and the long-term use of spironolactone are going to prevent myocardial hypertrophy as well as myocardial. Their adverse effects include hyperkalemia because they preserve potassium, so they can lead to hyperkalemia. Moreover, aldosterone receptor antagonists have anti-androgenic effects that can lead to gynecomastia, decreased libido, and impotence, and in females, they can cause menstrual disturbances. Triamterene is a folate antagonist. It can cause megaloblastia. Their indication is in antihypertensive but in combination with other diuretics. Moreover, to increase the effect and to prevent the hypokalemia. Number two, I have told you that these diuretics are used in cirrhosis. Now here is the indication. In cirrhosis, patient experience aldosteronism. So by using the aldosterone receptor antagonist, we inhibit this effect and we prefer aldosterone receptor antagonist in cirrhotic patients. They are contraindicated in renal failure because of hyperkalemia. They should never be combined with ACE inhibitors because you know ACE inhibitors are also causes hyperkalemia. So you are not going to prescribe spironolactones along with ACE inhibitors as well as angiotensin receptor blockers as well as NSAIDs, because NSAIDs inhibit prostaglandin synthesis, reduces glomerular filtration, so your effect of diuretics will decrease. And they are not going to prescribe along with potassium supplementation because they already cause potassium preservation and hyper